One of the 4 daily reflections is, I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. So I'd like to talk a little bit today about aging, partly because I'm an expert on aging, and I'm getting to be more and more expert every day. These aren't just white hairs, they're wisdom highlights, and I'm getting wiser and wiser. As human beings, we're actually the only species that can intellectually understand that we are all aging and that we are going to die in the future. And we tend to be fearful of old age because it very much reminds us of that. So one of the things that's very helpful when we start to think about aging is to learn to deal with fear, to really become fearless. And that doesn't mean not to have fear. It means to understand the nature of fear, to be open to it, and to be able to face fear when it arises. So all of us have this at some time. So we may have a lot of time that we're just fine with dying. It's not a problem. And probably there's a part of us that is very spacious and that knows, can understand that awareness just can be with everything that arises and passes. But there's a part of us that is ego, and it doesn't want to die. So whenever we are in this part of us that has a sense of a self, it doesn't want to lose it. And it is very connected to a survival brain. And this survival brain is always in the future, and it can keep us in an anxious place around growing older and around dying. So in order to be fearless, we actually move closer to fear. When we try to run away from it, it chases us. And fearlessness only means that fear is safe. So we don't have to go into denial. We don't have to fixate on the future or try to control things. Pema Chodron says, we always have a choice. We can let the circumstances of our lives harden us and make us increasingly resentful and afraid, or we can let them soften us and make us kinder. So there are a lot of things that change as we get older. And one of the things that changes is we often want to slow down a little bit more. This is also true in practice. And it's very helpful to get in touch with our own natural rhythms and watch them fluctuate. But often there's a tendency to slowness and to really not hook into this desperate sense of urgency that is in our culture. It's frenetic energy. Because we can see that there's a bigger picture. Another thing about aging is that we have to learn how to deal with loss. There's a lot of loss, always, but particularly around aging. There's loss of our youth, loss of maybe hopes and dreams. There's big losses. There's loss of people, loss of our energy, loss of health. And another loss is a loss of our identity, of who we thought, how we thought of ourselves, who we thought ourselves to be. And we have a choice as to how to relate to loss when it arises. Reading from Wayne Muller. It is an inevitable, excruciatingly human moment in which we're offered a powerful choice. This choice is perhaps one of the most vitally important choices that we'll ever make, and it determines the course of our lives from that moment forward. The choice is this: will we interpret loss as unfair, unjust, and devastating, and feel punished, angry, and wounded by it? Or, as our heart, torn apart, bleeds in anguish of sheer, wordless grief, will we somehow feel this loss as an opportunity to become more tender, more open, more passionately alive, and more grateful for what remains? So, in all of life, we're meeting our edge all the time. And we're asked to surrender again and again to losing what we're attached to, what we love, and going deeper and deeper and deeper until grief actually cracks us open. One of the unconscious fears that we have about growing old is that we can't be happy because we can't do things we used to do. But we can't do things we used to do. But it turns out that our happiness doesn't depend on them like we thought. Leonard Cohen, in his older age, said, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." In old age, we more clearly understand how important love is. And we will more clearly get that all of life is beautiful and very sacred. So every day that we live, we're one day older, and we have one day less. The more we're attached to who we think we are, the more we'll suffer. Because the way that we think we are is not going to make it. It's very important and just very helpful to find peace and happiness in old age. In order to do this, we have to really get in our bones kind of grok that we're not going to live forever. And then the facades fall away, and we start to live our lives very differently, sometimes for the first time. We can learn to look at, tell the truth about, and accept our real vulnerability. Our heart space becomes more at peace and more caring, more accepting, and more loving. So the salvation from the fear of death is the heart's connection to the present moment. We come into our hearts, we come into our bodies. We really get, in order to age well, we have to love well. Come into the present. This is the center of meditation practice. Loving well, living well, and dying well. Get out of the future. Get out of the plan. Rumi said, forget the future. I'd worship anyone who could do that. If you say there's nothing ahead, there's nothing ahead. So we meet our edge again and again, and we soften, and we soften. T.S. Eliot, condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything, every idea, every thought about who we were, and all shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. So for most of us, the deepest fear that we have is our fear of separation. And it's the ego's illusion of separateness that causes suffering. So when we grasp the part of us that's vast, that's aware and awake, we understand that we're not separate. And there's no part of us that is even touched by sickness, old age, or death, or anything. That we're a part of something larger, just like the cells that make us up are a part of us, and we're a part of the earth. We're part of the solar system. It's like all the parts of us, and yet we kind of stay identified with our little stories, and we recreate a sense of separate self in each moment. And in each moment, we can drop this. When we meditate, we become more clear. Awareness becomes more clear. Our sense perceptions become sharper. And we start to notice ourselves recreating this story, this fantasy, right out of space. And then we can also see that the space is here all the time. Just like the stars are out right now. We just can't see them. We can't notice the space until we become more quiet. So perhaps we'll end with just a little compassion. If you'd like to, you can close your eyes or not. May I be free of the suffering of the fear of aging. May I be free of the suffering of feeling jaded, numb, or meaningless. May I be free of the suffering of a closed heart. May I be free of the suffering of feeling separate from others, from the planet, from my true nature. May my heart open, hold all my suffering and the suffering of others. May any challenges that await me serve to open my heart to more tenderness, to more love, and more compassion.